So recently, I had one of my construction buddies contact me. That he owns a small construction company, does a lot of remodeling, and he wanted to know if I had any work that needed to be done. He had three of his full-time employees that were looking for extra work on the weekends. They usually only work Monday through Friday. And I said, well, as a matter of fact, I was probably going to want giving him a call anyways. I have a one of my rental houses that I'm redoing the flooring, and there was some issues, and I'm having to take up a lot of the flooring and just go back with some put down some half-inch OSB, and then put some new flooring down on top of that. But anyways, I said, yeah, yeah. And, I told him the address of, which one of my houses this was. I told him where I had hid the key for the house. And I told him, I said, look, I'm going to show up and I'm going to work too. I'm going to start in the back. You instruct your guys to start in the front, and we'll meet wherever we meet at in the middle, okay? And one more thing I told my buddy. Don't tell them that I'm the owner. Just tell them that, you got another, an older friend that needed some work too, and he's going to be there working. And he's like, yeah, okay. And I said, I'll give you a good report of, how good your guys are. Well, anyways, sure enough, I showed up at the property. All three of the guys were already there. And as I pulled up in my beat up 2003 4x4 Chevy, I noticed that there were three almost brand new, those giant, pickup trucks. I think two of them was Fords and one of them was a Chevy. I don't know. You know what I mean? So I'm like right off of the bat. Oh man, these young guys are doing it all wrong. Each one of those trucks, I know that, they're probably paying like $1,000 a month, financing those vehicles, even though they're just a couple of years old. So anyways, I came there. They had been there probably about 15 minutes. So I was the late guy showing up. So I didn't get any brownie points with them. And I told him, I said, hey, I'm Rusty, I'm Rick's friend. He told me that I'm starting in the back, and you guys were starting here in the front, and we were going to meet somewhere in the middle. And they're like, yeah, cool. Glad to meet you. And right off of the bat, I noticed one of them already. I felt attitude, from just it's like ever since I quit drinking, it's like I have my like perception senses about things, my call it intuition, has been, it's heightened, and I really have learned to pay attention to it. Let me describe the three young men. They're all under 30. I can't remember their exact ages, but it was like late 20s. One of them was Chad-like. You could easily be a Chad. Over 6 foot tall. Fairly good looking. Well built. The second guy, around 6 foot tall. Not ugly. So that's and that's the way I describe myself as well too. Is that I always say, well, I'm not ugly. And it doesn't mean I'm good looking, but I'm not ugly. The third guy was under 6 foot, and he was ugly. But out of the three young men, he definitely was the gym bro. He was very well built. He was under 6 foot, but talk about ugly as sin. So anyway, so we got started. I started in the back. I had a wheelbarrow, and as I was taking the old flooring up, I fill up the wheelbarrow, and then I would, come from the back of the house up through the middle of the house and out the front door. And we were stacking it in front of the house so I could make arrangements for the city to come pick up, the debris. So I make my first run, and I could tell these guys, they were good workers. They knew what they were doing, okay? And as I was, I had dumped my load in the front of the house, and I was making my way back, to go back to the house and get another load. And as I was just going, almost out of earshot from the guys, I heard the word boomer. And I could tell it was coming, it had came from the shorter, uglier dude, okay? And anyway, so I was like, that's interesting. All right, so I made sure I filled up my wheelbarrow even a little bit faster because I wanted to give him an opportunity to say something else, okay? Because I really wasn't sure exactly in what context he used the word boomer, okay? But I know that he was talking about me. So I fill up my wheelbarrow and I go to the front and dump and turn around and give him the opportunity to say something else. And sure enough, he did. So this younger fella said to me, he says, "Hey, listen, if you need any help back there, let me know." And I'm like, well, I said, I think I got it. And it looks like you guys are doing a pretty good job up here. I said, we're going to eventually meet in the middle somewhere. And I thought that was it. And sure enough, as soon as I turned my back and I start heading back to the back of the house, I hear that young guy say to the other two young guys, he's like, "Dude, that guy's going to slow us down." This was the moment where I realized that if this was just a few years ago, I know what I would have done. I would have lost my cool. I would have immediately stopped what I was doing, and I would have started a confrontation with that young man. I would have exposed the fact that I was the owner of the house, and it would have probably turned out pretty bad. At the very least, probably all three of those guys would probably wind up walking away, and the work wouldn't be getting done because of my ego. I let it go, and it wasn't very difficult to do. I have, ever since I stopped drinking, I have a tremendous sense of calmness, and peace that I maintain. So me blowing up like I used to when I was drinking, it doesn't happen anymore. And well, anyways, moving on, going back and forth, we would have little exchanges of information. I found out that two of the guys lived together in an apartment. Neither one of them had been married. And the uglier guy, he had never been married, and he was living with his parents. And his parents were renting. Okay, so he's living with his parents who don't own a house, and they're renting. The two other guys, Chad and almost Chad, they were renting an apartment together. All three of them had never been married. Two of them had children, though, and they were paying child support. And it turns out that it was the uglier guy that had 0 children, the gym bro, okay? And I was thinking to myself, wow, we gotta, it's interesting. I immediately started thinking in terms of, manosphere stuff. I was thinking, here we got Chad, which represents the top percentage of men. Here we got an average guy, represents the average man. And here we got, even though he's a gym bro, he's ugly, he's shorter, under 6 foot, and he's ugly as shit. And just as a little commentary about the gym thing, you can work out your body all you want, but you can't fix your face. Okay. You could have the body of Adonis and and a face that just does not match up. Okay. And yeah, you could boost your confidence and health wise, you can't beat working out, but this idea of looks maxing, um, I'm probably going to have to lean more towards the black pill on this one, just from my own personal observations and experience in life. Where I guarantee you that this uglier dude, even though he was well built, he still was under 6 foot and he was ugly. Okay, and I thought what a coincidence. It's the other two guys that have the children, but this uglier dude doesn't have any children. Maybe it's a coincidence, maybe it's not. Hard to tell when you're dealing on an individual basis instead of looking at an entire population. But anyways, lunchtime came, and we were going to have a standard 30-minute lunch. So I was talking with the guys and everything, and it came up. I told the young man. I said, "Look, I don't appreciate you calling me a boomer." And he's like, "Oh, I was just joking, man. I was just joking." And I told him, I said, "Well, look, I said, I want you to leave me out of your joking, and here's the reason why. I went to college for history and English. I didn't go to college for psychology." And he was like, "What? What? Where's this coming from?" And I said, "Well, that's a fancy way of me saying that I'm not an expert at telling whether or not you're a narcissist." And the guy was shocked. And he's like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah." I said, "Look," I said, historically and traditionally, the way that men bond is by joking with one another. In fact, that's where the term breaking balls comes from. Okay. Men bond by joking with one another. The only problem I have is that, you see, hidden amongst, 10 jokers is going to be at least one real fucking narcissist, the bully, okay, that uses the cover of joking to attack because they feel insecure. They had tremendous rejection maybe at a young age, and it caused the trauma, which then triggered the personality disorder of narcissism. A lot of times with men, it's very difficult to differentiate between normal narcissistic traits versus the outright personality disorder. And like my experience here online, I have seen where there's a group of guys and they're all joking back and forth, calling each other names and making fun of one another. And for the most part, they're just bonding. Men usually, when they're putting down or making fun of another man, they usually don't mean it. And here's something that's interesting. That's kind of like the flip of that. Women, on the other hand, women usually, when women give compliments to each other, they usually don't mean it. It's usually just the opposite. So that's something interesting that I've seen over my lifetime, how most women, when they give compliments, they really don't mean it. There's some evil intent behind that. But when most men put down or make fun of another man, usually they're just bonding. And a lot of the times it's just the opposite, where those two men that are going back and forth at each other, there is some type of brotherly love between them. But you're always going to have, in any sampling group, you're going to have that real narcissist. And I explained this to the young fella that, I can't tell the difference. I'm not an expert enough to tell the difference if you're really just trying to bond with me, or you're just really fucking insecure. And boy, when I told him that, just kind of shut him down. He got angry. He was not in control of his emotions. And then here comes my second observation from my own experience in life, and apply this online. You see, I tried to establish a boundary with this guy. I said, whoa, stop. You say you're joking. You say that you don't mean it. And now I'm saying, don't do it again, and don't include me in your joking. He got mad. I have noticed online, I've done this a couple of times where I've been like in a chat, or I've show up or something like that in the live stream, and there will be some guys that are going back and forth, and they're making fun of one another and everything. And all of a sudden one will lash out and then try to draw me into that joking, try to draw me into that making fun of me thing. And I've told him right away, I appreciate you trying to bond with me. I appreciate you joking with me, but please do not include me in your joking. I don't want to be included. And one time I remember doing this, that was the end of it. And usually when it comes to a halt, usually it really was just joking. Usually they really didn't mean it, and they were just, breaking balls, so to speak. I've done this another time before, and online the guy got very upset, and started amped up the attacking. Oh, what's wrong? Are you in your feelings? Did I hurt your feelings? And best thing to do is, in my opinion, I just leave. And then I remember, okay, this guy has got a problem. There's some kind of deep-seated trauma that he is covering up, and perceives me as, whatever, and he's trying to diminish me. And I just left, okay? And remembered that guy, okay? So I saw this young man getting upset, and anyways, went back to work. The guys never, here's another observation. The guys never suspected that I was the owner. The reason they didn't suspect I was the owner, even though I was much older, okay, was because they had a stereotype in their head. You see, my buddy that owns the construction company, their boss, told them that one of his real estate investor friends that owns a few houses, in the area, okay, wanted the work done. And if they did a good job, that he probably would hire them to continue doing, other jobs on the weekend so that they can make some extra money. They probably had in their head an idea of a decrepit old man driving around in a Mercedes Benz or something like that, that never would show up on a job site, certainly was not in the physical condition that I was, and certainly wouldn't ever get his hands dirty, And then once they saw my beat up 2003 4x4, they were convinced I was, just a guy that was a friend of their bosses that needed some money. Never judge a book by its cover. Another lesson in this, getting back to me not getting upset, I heard in the back of my mind, that it's easy to get angry. It's hard to be angry at the right man for the right reason and exactly at the right time. Well, I knew who the man was I wanted to be angry at. You know, it was this cocky, arrogant, you know, probably a narcissist with some type of insecurity issues going on, you know, and he felt as though he had to tear me down. But it was not, and I had a good reason because, you know, I had told him, you know, please stop. And the guy basically rejected me saying, you know, rejected my boundary that I was requesting because he continued making smart ass comments every time I would show up with my, my pile of flooring debris, taking it out to the front. It was not the right time. I wanted to get that job done. And if I lost my cool, or even if I didn't lose my cool and I just casually said, look, you know, we got a problem here. I'm the owner and you're not going to do this. Then I knew the work was probably going to stop. And at worst, it may have escalated into a situation where I was getting into a fist fight, not just with him, but with both of his buddies. I certainly didn't want that. So instead, I remained cool. And I kind of turned it around on this young man. I used the opportunity that he was causing friction, and I started making some smart aleck remarks to him too, but in a very constructive way. I told him, I said, you know what? I said, I bet you that I'm going to make it to the middle of the house before you guys do. Ooh, they did not like that. And what ended up happening is they ended up working harder because all three of them then was going to prove me wrong. Okay. So sure enough, they wound up beating my ass all the way, you know, to the middle of the house, you know, and then they had to come, you know, where I was, then help me finish out the rest of the house. And so I got the job done quicker than I expected to get the job done. And about that time, their boss showed up. Okay. And he said hi to them, but kept on walking, you know, straight up to me and started talking. And then both me and my buddy then came up to all three of them, you know, and we had already, you know, cleaned up and everything. It's getting ready to go. And he said, gentlemen, let me introduce you to the owner of the properties. You know, he said, this is Rusty and everything, you know, and of course that little ugly Jim bro, the look on his face was priceless. And I told him, I said, look, I said, next weekend, I said, I got another property. And I said, it's going to be a lot of cleanup on the outside. We're going to have to load up the trailer and take it to the dump it. And then we're going to have to come back and we're going to have to do it again. You know, probably going to take at least half a day, you know. And then I said to him, I said, you two gentlemen, and I was talking to Chad Like and the average guy. I said, you two gentlemen are welcome to do that job with me if you want to. I said, you, however, I said, I think I got a problem with you now, and I don't think it's going to work out. So you see, that was the right time to strike. So yeah, there's a few lessons in here. You know, I'm not going to summarize them. Just be a waste of time with the video, just more time. But it was an interesting situation. And with that, I'm Captain Rusty Rivers, signing out.